Have you ever had one of those quiet, unsettling moments where you catch a faint whiff of something off and suddenly wonder to yourself, wait, is that me? If so, you are absolutely not alone. Many women, especially as we get older, experience this, and the first reaction is usually embarrassment, maybe even a bit of panic. But let me tell you something important right from the start. It doesn't mean you're dirty, it doesn't mean you failed in your hygiene, and it certainly doesn't mean you're the only one. In fact, what most women don't realize is that some of the very habits we've been practicing for decades, habits we thought were the right way to stay clean, can actually backfire. That's right. The routines and products that promise us freshness or confidence often end up doing the opposite, making us more vulnerable to irritation, imbalance, and yes, unwanted odors. And here's the kicker. It's not your fault. These are lessons most of us were never taught. They weren't in health class, and let's be honest, our mothers and grandmothers didn't sit us down for a long talk about bathroom habits either. So if you've ever felt frustrated or confused about why, despite all your efforts, you don't feel as fresh as you'd like, you're in the right place. This video is going to open your eyes. Doctors have identified 8 surprising bathroom habits that can make older women smell worse, and the truth is, most of us are guilty of at least a few of them. But here's the good news. Once you know what they are, the fixes are simple, practical, and incredibly effective. By the end of this video, you'll have a set of easy strategies that will help you feel cleaner, fresher, and more confident in your own skin every single day. Now before we dive in, let me quickly say this. If you're new here, I'd love for you to join our community of women who believe that aging is not something to hide from but something to embrace with wisdom and strength. And it does not need soap inside. In fact, it's one of the most incredible self-cleaning systems in the human body. Inside the vaginal canal, nature has designed a perfect balance of good bacteria, mostly lactobacillus, that work around the clock to keep things healthy and odor-free. These bacteria maintain a slightly acidic pH, usually between 3.8 and 4.5. That acidity acts like a natural security guard, preventing harmful bacteria and yeast from taking over. Now imagine what happens when we take harsh, scented soaps and scrub inside or around that delicate ecosystem. We're not just washing away dirt. We're stripping away the very bacteria that protect us. The pH gets disrupted, the good bacteria get knocked out, and suddenly the bad guys, like bacteria that cause bacterial vaginosis or yeast, see an opportunity to move in. And what's the result? The very thing we were trying to avoid: irritation, itching, discharge, and yes, odor. And here's the irony. When women notice that odor, their first instinct is usually to wash even more, or reach for stronger scented products to cover it up. But the more we do that, the more we disturb the balance and the worse the cycle gets. It's not a sign that you're dirty. It's a sign that the natural balance has been upset. I can tell you from experience, this was a hard lesson to learn. For years, I thought I was doing everything right, until I started having recurring discomfort, irritation, and that frustrating feeling of not being as fresh as I wanted to be. It wasn't until I had an honest conversation with my gynecologist that the light bulb finally went off. She told me something I'll never forget. The vagina cleans itself. All you need to do is let it. So what's the fix? Doctors recommend keeping it simple. For the vaginal canal itself, do nothing. No soaps, no scrubbing, no sprays. Your body is already doing the job for you, naturally flushing out old cells and keeping the environment balanced. And it does not need soap inside. In fact, it's one of the most incredible self-cleaning systems in the human body. Inside the vaginal canal, nature has designed a perfect balance of good bacteria, mostly lactobacillus, that work around the clock to keep things healthy and odor-free. These bacteria maintain a slightly acidic pH, usually between 3.8 and 4.5. That acidity acts like a natural security guard, preventing harmful bacteria and yeast from taking over. Now imagine what happens when we take harsh, scented soaps and scrub inside or around that delicate ecosystem. We're not just washing away dirt. We're stripping away the very bacteria that protect us. The pH gets disrupted, the good bacteria get knocked out, and suddenly the bad guys, like bacteria that cause bacterial vaginosis or yeast, see an opportunity to move in. And what's the result? The very thing we were trying to avoid: irritation, itching, discharge, and yes, odor. And here's the irony. When women notice that odor, their first instinct is usually to wash even more, or reach for stronger scented products to cover it up. But the more we do that, the more we disturb the balance and the worse the cycle gets. It's not a sign that you're dirty. It's a sign that the natural balance has been upset. I can tell you from experience, this was a hard lesson to learn. For years, I thought I was doing everything right, until I started having recurring discomfort, irritation, and that frustrating feeling of not being as fresh as I wanted to be. It wasn't until I had an honest conversation with my gynecologist that the light bulb finally went off. She told me something I'll never forget. The vagina cleans itself. All you need to do is let it. So what's the fix? Doctors recommend keeping it simple. For the vaginal canal itself, do nothing. No soaps, no scrubbing, no sprays. Your body is already doing the job for you, naturally flushing out old cells and keeping the environment balanced. For the outside, the vulva, you can rinse gently with warm water. If you really feel you need a cleanser, choose a fragrance-free, pH-balanced wash made specifically for sensitive or intimate skin, and use it sparingly. And this is important. Avoid douching feminine sprays, powders, or heavily fragranced wipes. They might promise confidence, but what they usually deliver is irritation, dryness, and imbalance. Instead, trust your body's natural rhythm. If you ever notice a persistent odor or discomfort that doesn't go away even after simplifying your routine, that's the time to consult a healthcare provider, not the time to pile on more products. The takeaway here is simple but powerful. Less is more. The less you interfere with your body's natural processes, the healthier and fresher you'll actually feel. Your body is wise. It was designed to take care of itself in ways most of us never realized. And when you give it the space to do its job, you'll notice the difference, not just in odor, but in overall comfort and confidence. Let me ask you a question that might make you pause for a second. When was the last time you washed your bath towel? If you're hesitating, you're not alone. Most people don't wash their towels as often as they should. And for older women especially, this little oversight can quietly undo all the effort you put into staying clean and fresh. Here's the thing. Towels feel so harmless, right? After all, you only use them after a shower, when your skin is already clean. So the logic seems simple. If I'm clean when I step out of the shower, then the towel stays clean too. Many of us were raised with this belief, and maybe you even heard advice like, "Oh, you can use the same towel for a whole week. It's no big deal." But doctors and dermatologists say that's a myth, and I'll explain why. The truth is, towels are a perfect breeding ground for bacteria, fungi, and even mold. Think about it. A towel's job is to absorb water. And every time you use it, it soaks up not only water but also tiny particles of dead skin cells, sweat, and natural oils from your body. Now, combine that with the environment most towels live in, the bathroom. A small, steamy, humid room where moisture lingers in the air. It's warm, it's damp, and it often doesn't get enough ventilation. In other words, your towel is spending hours hanging in what scientists would call ideal microbial conditions. Bacteria and fungi love these conditions. They multiply quickly, and before long, that soft towel you draped over your shoulders after a shower is carrying millions of invisible guests. That's why, after a few uses, you might start to notice a faint musty or sour smell on the towel itself. And here's the kicker. When you dry off with that towel, all of those germs get rubbed right back onto your freshly cleaned skin. It's like undoing the work of your shower without even realizing it. I'll never forget when I first noticed this myself. I had just stepped out of a hot shower, feeling refreshed and clean, but as I patted my face dry, I caught this subtle musty odor. At first, I thought maybe the drain needed cleaning or the shower curtain had mildew. But then I sniffed my towel, and there it was. That sour, damp smell clinging to the very fabric I'd been trusting for a week. It was a wake-up call. I realized my towel was sabotaging my hygiene. Dermatologists recommend a simple rule of thumb. Wash your bath towels after 3 to 4 uses. And if you live in a humid climate, or your bathroom doesn't have good airflow, say no window or a weak exhaust fan, you might even need to wash them every 2 uses. It may sound like extra work, but the payoff is huge. Cleaner skin, fresher smelling towels, and no more musty odors transferring back onto your body. Now let's talk about how to make this easier, because I know washing towels constantly can feel like a chore. One simple strategy is to rotate your towels. Keep 3 in your regular lineup. One you're currently using, one that's drying from its last wash, and one that's clean and ready to go. That way you're never caught with a damp, germy towel. Another important tip: how you dry your towel matters just as much as how often you wash it. Instead of tossing it over a hook or leaving it bunched up, spread it out fully on a towel rack so it can air dry properly. A towel that stays damp for hours is like a buffet for bacteria. If your bathroom struggles with moisture, consider cracking a window, running the exhaust fan longer, or even investing in a small dehumidifier. You'd be surprised how much fresher your bathroom and your towels will smell with just a little extra airflow. Since I made these changes myself, washing more often, rotating towels, and making sure they dry properly, I've noticed a big difference. No more faint musty smell after a shower. My bathroom smells fresher, my skin feels cleaner, and I feel more confident knowing I'm not carrying hidden bacteria around with me. It's such a small adjustment, but the impact on your freshness and hygiene is huge. So the takeaway here is simple. Don't let your towel undo all your efforts. A clean body deserves a clean towel. Rotate, wash, and dry them properly, and you'll never have to second-guess whether that subtle odor is coming from you or from the fabric hanging on your bathroom hook. This next habit might feel a little uncomfortable to talk about, but it's one of the most important when it comes to staying fresh and healthy as we age. It's all about wiping and toilet hygiene. Now, wiping may seem like the simplest thing in the world, something we've been doing since childhood. But here's the truth. Many women were never actually taught the right way to do it, and the consequences of doing it incorrectly can add up over the years. Let me paint the picture. When you use the toilet, you've got 2 very different areas close together: the rectum in the back and the vulva and urethra in the front. The problem is that bacteria from the back, especially E. coli and other fecal bacteria, don't belong anywhere near the front. If they travel forward, they can easily reach the urethra or the vaginal area. And once that happens, it can lead to problems like urinary tract infections, vaginal infections, and yes, unpleasant odor. Now, for younger women, the body can sometimes fight off these small exposures before they cause issues. But for older women, it's a different story. As we age, the skin around our intimate areas becomes thinner, drier, and more delicate. The natural estrogen that once kept the tissues plump and resilient decreases, making them more fragile and easier to irritate. On top of that, mobility challenges like difficulty twisting or reaching due to arthritis, back pain, or stiffness can make proper wiping technique harder to manage. All of this makes older women more vulnerable to irritation, odor, and infection simply from not wiping in the safest way. I remember a conversation I had with a nurse who worked in elder care. She told me one of the most common, but preventable issues she saw in older women was recurring urinary tract infections, and when she traced it back, poor wiping habits were often at the root of the problem. Not because the women didn't care about hygiene, but because no one ever told them that something as small as wiping front to back could make such a big difference. So here's the golden rule. Always wipe from front to back. Think of it as drawing a line away from the vagina and urethra, never toward them. This one simple habit helps prevent fecal bacteria from traveling into areas where they don't belong. If you're using toilet paper, choose a soft, unscented brand. Harsh or heavily perfumed toilet papers can irritate sensitive skin, and rough paper can cause micro tears that increase the risk of infection and odor. For some women, especially those who find wiping physically difficult, there are additional tools that can help. Unscented, alcohol-free wet wipes designed for sensitive skin can make the process gentler. A small peri bottle, a squeeze bottle you can fill with warm water, can be used to rinse the area clean after a bowel movement. In some cultures, bidets are standard, and many older women find them to be a game changer for comfort and hygiene. Another tip: don't rush. Taking just a few extra seconds to ensure you've wiped properly and thoroughly can make a big difference in your long-term freshness and health. And if you notice any lingering odor or discomfort even after wiping correctly, that could be a sign of infection, and it's important to check in with your healthcare provider. The bottom line is this: wiping might seem like a small detail, but it's a detail that matters. Proper toilet hygiene protects you from unnecessary infections, helps you stay fresher longer, and saves you from the frustration of wondering why odor lingers, even when you feel you're doing everything right. So remember, front to back always. It's one of the simplest yet most powerful habits for protecting your health and confidence at any age. Here's one that many women overlook, especially in summer or after exercise: sitting around in wet or damp clothing. Maybe it's that swimsuit after a dip in the pool, or gym clothes after a good workout, or even just lounging in a damp bathrobe after a shower. It feels harmless, sometimes even relaxing. But here's the hidden truth. Staying in damp clothes is one of the easiest ways to invite odor-causing bacteria and yeast to thrive. Let's think about what's happening on a microscopic level. When clothing is wet, whether from water, sweat, or bath moisture, it traps heat and humidity close to the skin. That combination, warmth plus dampness, is exactly what bacteria, yeast, and fungi love. In fact, dermatologists often compare it to leaving bread in a warm, moist environment. Give it a little time and something will start to grow. The same is true for the folds of skin around our intimate areas. Now, here's where it becomes especially important for older women. With age, the skin naturally loses some of its resilience and becomes thinner and more sensitive. The natural balance of protective bacteria and vaginal pH can also shift with menopause. That means the body is less able to fight back against intruders. So when you stay in damp clothing for too long, you're not just risking a little discomfort, you're creating the perfect environment for irritation, rashes, and yes, unpleasant odor that seems to stick around no matter how clean you feel. I'll share a quick story. A friend of mine in her 60s loved her morning swims. She'd finish her laps, dry off a little, then go sit by the pool in her suit to chat with friends, sometimes for an hour or more. She thought nothing of it, until she began noticing recurrent yeast infections and an embarrassing odor that made her self-conscious. Her doctor gently explained that the swimsuit was the problem. Once she started changing into dry clothes immediately after swimming, and giving herself a quick rinse in the shower before dressing, the issue almost completely disappeared. The fix here is simple but powerful. Anytime you're in wet clothing, Whether it's a bathing suit, workout leggings, or even underwear that's gotten damp from sweat, change out of it as soon as possible. If you can, give yourself a quick rinse in the shower to remove sweat, chlorine, or salt water, and then dry the skin thoroughly before putting on fresh clothes. Pat dry rather than rubbing, since the skin can be delicate. And when you do change, choose breathable clothing. Cotton underwear and loose, airy fabrics are best because they allow the skin to stay cool and dry. Avoid staying in tight, synthetic fabrics for long stretches. They may look stylish, but they don't let your skin breathe, and that alone can make odor worse. If you're someone who loves swimming or water aerobics and you don't always have immediate access to a shower, keep a spare set of dry clothes and a towel in your bag. Even just changing out of your wetsuit into something dry until you can shower later makes a huge difference. The bottom line? Your skin and intimate areas were never meant to live in constant dampness. By making the small habit of changing promptly after swimming, sweating, or bathing, you'll prevent odor, protect your skin from infections, and feel fresher and more confident all day. This last one may surprise you because it doesn't happen in the bathroom itself. It happens in the laundry room. But the truth is, what you wash your underwear and towels with can have just as much impact on odor, freshness, and intimate health as anything else we've talked about so far. Here's why. Most mainstream laundry detergents and fabric softeners are packed with chemicals, artificial fragrances, and residue-building agents that don't completely rinse out. What's left behind in your underwear, bras, and towels comes right back into contact with your most sensitive skin. And while that spring meadow or lavender breeze scent may smell pleasant at first, it can actually irritate the delicate tissues of the vulva, trigger itching, or disrupt the healthy bacteria and natural pH balance that keep odor away. Dermatologists and gynecologists often remind women that less is more when it comes to laundry products used on fabrics that touch the body directly. In fact, a study from University of Iowa Healthcare noted that residues from laundry products can aggravate sensitive skin conditions, and for women already dealing with dryness or thinning skin after menopause, the irritation can be even worse. Here's another hidden issue. Some fabric softeners and dryer sheets don't actually remove odors. They mask them or trap them in the fibers with a coating. That means towels and underwear may smell fresh right out of the dryer. But once they come into contact with body heat and moisture, those trapped odors can resurface. So instead of feeling truly clean, you may notice a musty or sour smell that lingers no matter how often you wash. I once read a story from a nurse who cared for older women in assisted living. She said one of the most common frustrations her patients had was that their underwear seemed to smell off, even when freshly laundered. When families switched to fragrance-free detergents and skipped the fabric softener, that stubborn smell disappeared within weeks. It wasn't the women, it was the laundry routine all along. So what's the fix? It's simpler than you think. Switch to mild, fragrance-free detergents. Look for labels that say free and clear, or specifically state hypoallergenic. These formulas clean effectively without leaving behind irritating residue or overpowering scents. Skip the fabric softener and dryer sheets, at least for underwear and towels. They're unnecessary for hygiene, and in many cases they make odor issues worse. If you want softness, try using a little white vinegar in the rinse cycle. It naturally softens fabric, rinses out soap more effectively, and doesn't leave a smell once dry. Rinse thoroughly. Make sure loads aren't overloaded because crowded machines don't rinse properly. Sometimes running an extra rinse cycle for underwear and towels is worth it. Let items dry fully. Damp towels or underwear left in the washer too long can develop mildew, and no detergent can cover up that smell. Get them into the dryer or onto the line promptly. Over time, you'll probably notice two things when you make this switch. Your skin feels calmer and less irritated, and your laundry smells naturally fresh instead of artificially perfumed. And here's the best part. You may realize that the odor you thought was your body was never actually your body at all. It was the chemical residue in your fabrics all along. The bottom line? Clean laundry should support your freshness, not sabotage it. By treating your underwear and towels with the same gentleness you'd want for your skin, you're not just preventing odor, you're protecting your health, comfort, and confidence every single day. When it comes to body odor, most people immediately think of deodorant, soap, or laundry detergent. But one of the most overlooked factors is something so basic, so simple, that we sometimes forget it entirely: water intake. Here's the truth. When we don't drink enough fluids, our bodies become slightly dehydrated. And what does dehydration do? It concentrates everything. Urine becomes darker and stronger smelling, sweat becomes denser, and even the natural oils on our skin can develop a sharper odor. Imagine a pot of soup left simmering on the stove for hours. The longer it boils down, the more intense the smell becomes. That's exactly what happens in the body when fluids are lacking. Older adults are especially vulnerable here. As we age, our natural sense of thirst diminishes. That means senior women may not feel as thirsty as they once did, leading them to drink less water throughout the day. Add in medications like diuretics or bladder control drugs, and dehydration can sneak up without warning. The result? Stronger body odor, more noticeable urine smell, and even higher risk for urinary tract infections. The fix is simple but powerful. Make hydration a habit. Carry a reusable water bottle, sip small amounts frequently, and don't wait until you're thirsty.